Humans possess the power of creation, but beyond that brilliance, within each of us is a dark paradox. We also harbor the capacity for destruction, and many of us can become possessed by a spirit of malice that rages against the source of our own existence. There are times in anyone's life where they wish they were never born. It's a common reaction to intense suffering. Did any of us ever ask to be born? Did our parents or any god seek our permission? These kinds of thoughts are part of a growing philosophical movement called Antinatalism. Antinatalist proponents consider coming into existence as bad and deem those who procreate as immoral. To them, life itself is inevitable suffering, and death is also unavoidable. Some antinatalists encompass all living creatures into their argument. To them, all sentient beings brought into existence are harmed needlessly. One of the most well-known antinatalists is the head of the philosophy department in Cape Town, South Africa, David Benatar. He often posits that in all life there develops an asymmetry between good and bad. To give you a better idea of his nihilistic philosophy, here's a recent quote from a New Yorker interview he did. Quote, "One of the implications of my argument is that a life filled with good and containing only the most minute quantity of bad, a life of utter bliss, adulterated only by the pain of a single pinprick, is worse than no life at all." Unquote. The darkness of this philosophy has taken legal precedent as well. In 2019, Raphael Samuel sued his parents for birthing him without his consent. The 27-year-old claims to have had these deep existential questions since he was 5. He would ask his father, "Why did you have me?" To which his father, having no reply, would just shrug it off. His antinatalist viewpoint asks very valid questions. We should ask questions like, why do I exist? What is the deep purpose for being here? But we should also take great care in the answers that we accept and allow to shape us. As for Raphael's court case, his parents, while open to his arguments, don't see the validity in his view. As it turns out, both his parents are well versed in the legality in question. His mother Kavita explains, quote, "I must admire my son's temerity to want to take us to court, knowing both of us are lawyers. And if Raphael could come up with a rational explanation as to how we could have sought his consent to be born, I will accept my fault." Unquote. So according to this philosophy, humanity should just be put out of its misery then? This goes hand in hand with environmentalists that claim that procreation has gotten out of hand. We are told all the time by media and academia that we're overpopulated and we're on track to create this ravaged environment. And they shame people who have multiple children as if it were a mortal sin. And it seems that it's sinking in. Take a look at Google Trends. You'll see that around February 2022, we reach an inflection point in interest in overpopulation. It seems their narrative has become quite effective, but what you won't hear about are the numerous studies, like the one from the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics. It predicts a growth to 9 to 11 billion, and then a highly possible population collapse by 2100. I'll explain why in a second, but the study mentions that if the UN's Sustainable Development Goals are met, things like education and contraception could decrease the population even more by then. It's pretty straightforward, but the replacement fertility rate is the average number of children a woman has in a given country. And since it takes 2 people to create the children, the replacement rate would be 2, Any rate of 2.1 or above is a growing population. 2 or below is declining. Many African countries have replacement rates far exceeding that 2.1 threshold. But sadly, they are the exception and have seen dramatic declines in the last decades. Many are straddling that growth marker, and unfortunately, most are well below the replacement capacity. But still, the myth of overpopulation and sustainability is pushed. Procreation has become the great sin against the god of the earth, the Gaia goddess, that grieves over the arrival of what the God of the Bible celebrated. Let's not forget the command to be fruitful and multiply. It's my belief that a growing and flourishing population presents too many risks to a totalitarian future. There exists in this Luciferian mindset a craving for control, a will to power, to quote Friedrich Nietzsche, whose dark hierarchy requires a smaller populace. And with fewer people, they can exert total control. Have you seen some of the plans for these future cities? By 2030, Saudi Arabia will have erected a 110-mile-long megastructure called The Line, consisting of 2 mirrored buildings with an outdoor space between them. With this design, they hope to drastically reduce the carbon footprint of its planned 9 million residents. I mean, this thing is gigantic, at 1,600 feet tall and 660 feet wide, stretching its 110-mile length, powered entirely by, you guessed it, renewable energy. Construction for this has already started, but look what's also happening in China. Check this out. This is from a Unilad article by Callum Jones from a few days ago. They're cramming 20,000 plus people into these super blocks, these mega-sized apartment buildings that have food courts, barbershops, supermarkets, even restaurants. Just everything you need so you don't have to even leave the building. Meanwhile, Europe and America are seeing a new tiny home trend. They're wanting people to live in smaller and smaller, cheaper homes so as not to consume more resources than is absolutely necessary. All while this World Economic Forum preaches sustainability with their new catchphrase of the future, "You'll own nothing and be happy." You're probably familiar with this. So is this the bleak future we have to look forward to? People have been slowly manipulated into believing that procreating and merely existing is a burden on Earth's resources and nothing more. And it's also my belief that the source of this spirit is, of course, supernatural. It transcends this physical world, and there are things influencing people and plans being contrived to see these drastic, evil goals accomplished. But let me know what you think in the comments, and for more content, click here, and I'll see you all very, very soon.